Another silly claim made on my channel. I mean, this is pretty easy, right? The Separatists are clearly the bad guys. They're the ones who have the Sith, the Trade Federation. Heck, they're the ones who started the Clone Wars. But whenever I see the opening crawl for Revenge of the Sith, I always wonder about the line, there are heroes on both sides, evil is everywhere. The evil is everywhere part is easy to understand. Palpatine is on both sides of the war, he's the one who's behind it all, and his supporters are going to be all for the Empire Rising, and that's before you watch the Clone Wars and see just how many war crimes the Jedi will commit, like using child soldiers or attacking neutral planets or their personal favorite, false surrenders.
I have come to surrender.
But we don't see much of the heroes on both sides part of it. In fact, if you've only seen the movies, you've seen no heroes among the Separatists. And that is by design. In the prequels, we really don't spend that much time with any of the Separatists. There's, the Trade Federation, who are just seen as greedy and made a dumb deal with Palpatine to make more money. There's Dooku, who's a Sith Lord, who, the more you dive into his backstory, the more you could see where he's trying to help the galaxy, but we don't really get that in the movies. And then you have General Grievous, whose hobby is killing Jedi. So we don't really get very good characters here, and that is before you consider just how little time we get to spend with them. Because, if we did want to spend time with more members of the Separatist Council, well, too bad, because Vader's going to end the war.
Lord Sidious promised us peace. We only want...
Oh, hey, another war crime there. Killing a surrendering enemy. I guess it's good to know that he's consistent whether he's Jedi or Sith. But if you've watched the Clone Wars, then you have seen a little bit of how the Confederacy of Independent Systems works because of the storyline, and you're never going to believe this, heroes on both sides.
An astute observation has led to laughter.
In this episode, the Galactic Senate is debating deregulating the banks as they're running out of money, so Padme uses the opportunity to try to negotiate a peace deal with the Separatists through her old friend and current Separatist senator, Mina Bonteri, and then she teams up with Ahsoka so she can get past enemy lines, as she's also teaching Ahsoka the grays of war. And this allows us to see the Separatists in a different light because Mina Bonteri was also Padme's former mentor, and, she was a senator in the Galactic Republic before her system decided to secede with the other Separatists, and because of this, she also has a very high opinion of Count Dooku. Now, Padme could take that as a reason to think that they have no common ground, She has a very low opinion of Dooku for obvious and deserved reasons, Nobody would be surprised if you were to say, hey, you're willing to work with this person who tried to kill me? I can't work with you. But she doesn't see Mina as just one of Dooku's pawns. She sees a senator who wants what's best for her people. She sees somebody who she could find common ground with, somebody who also wants peace. And then there's Ahsoka, whose interactions with the Separatists are limited to battle droids and military leaders as they actively try to kill her. It's understanding why she isn't trusting of Separatists here, and that's before you consider the impact that Anakin is having on her. There's a reason why Mom is taking the kid for the day to teach this lesson. A lesson that Ahsoka does learn as she goes from at best annoyed with Mina's son Lux to actually starting to like him and becoming his friend. And even if you haven't seen the Clone Wars, or maybe this story isn't sounding as familiar, this part might a little, or at the very least this clip should jog your memory. Yep, first episode with Ahsoka's Shoto lightsaber. But the question in the video gets asked because Mina Bonteri does push for peace, and it's something that the Separatist Parliament is open to. We even get to see the scene of it where they're discussing it, they're a democracy, and there's such a push for peace that even Dooku has to agree to it. Or at least he does publicly, because right after this he goes to Sidious and warns him that there is this push for peace among the Separatists, and then all of a sudden there's an attack on Coruscant. The Galactic Senate is all of a sudden then completely against peace, and the war goes on, but we at least do get to see that, hey, there are good people among the Separatists. They don't want to just fight this war, they also want peace. But Palpatine can't have this, and that's why Mina Bonteri is eventually killed, as the next time we see Lux, he's trying to avenge his mother's murder by killing Dooku with the Mandalorian terrorist group Death Watch. And this does really show Lux's fall in a different way, because we do know that his father was killed in the Clone Wars before we're introduced to him, and he could be sulking about the fact that his mother is meeting with the enemy. These are the people who killed your husband. Why are you talking to them? But he doesn't do that. He's warm to Ahsoka from the start. It's his friendliness that wins her over. But once he loses his mother too, he doesn't go, oh, well, I'm going to join the Republic because the Separatists, they lied to me. The ideas weren't really there. No, he still kind of believes in the ideas at this point. It's just that he sees Dooku as the sole problem. If he can have Dooku killed, then the Separatists will be able to accomplish their goals. Luckily, Ahsoka is there with him, as she's able to convince him that what he's doing is wrong, as he's able to see what Death Watch really is, and realizes that he doesn't want to be that. That's not how he was raised by his parents to be, obviously, and there's that part of him deep down that's a good person who then starts to turn back, and luckily is able to survive it because Ahsoka is there. And this is where we start to see our Separatist characters being problematic as well, because they're still fully fleshed out characters, at least when we get to spend more time with them, but that's what makes them human still, because the next time we see Lux, he's mostly back to his old ways. He's wanting independence for his planet, and he's a revolutionary now. He's fighting against Separatist rule of Onderon, and then the Republic shows up to train him and his other revolutionaries to be terrorists.
What?
Fine, Anakin. Freedom fighters. You still got a lot of war crimes on your rap sheet, though. And I say this because this is also where we're introduced to Saw and Steela Gerrera, as Steela really should be the leader of Onderon. She's kind of that idealized character, especially for a leader, but she doesn't survive the revolution, so, she's too good of a character to be able to survive. That would be too easy almost, but Saw does, and we end up seeing that he does fight the Empire to the end, so he's by no means a villain, but he also fights the Empire separately from the rest of the Rebel Alliance because he's viewed as too much of an extremist. And here's the thing, we know what the Republic is going to become. Even if all of our heroes are on that side, we know that they're all just pawns in a game they've already lost. So by being against the side that is going to become the Empire, are you the good guys? And even if it's not just being against the side that will become the Empire, we know that there's a lot of corruption in the Galactic Republic. They don't really serve the people they claim to, and then you have groups like the Trade Federation that they either can't or won't hold accountable, and you have to start to wonder if maybe just being against the Republic is a good thing. But the problem with this thinking is, yeah, sure, there are some of them that went into this with the best of intentions, but the path of the dark side can be filled with the best intentions. I might be describing the Mina Bonteris of the Confederacy of the Independent Systems, but I'm also describing Dooku here, and, backstory or not, you can't really say that he's a good guy. Everything he does is to serve the Sith. He just believes that the Sith should rule. The problem with that is he doesn't really have a full picture of the Sith, so unless we're stepping back and taking a full look at the war, as cheesy as it is to say, there really are heroes on both sides, and evil is everywhere.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
And there's Obi-Wan summing up my video in one sentence there, because, yeah, of course there are good guys on both sides, but Obi-Wan is more right than he knows, because the Sith had absolute control of the Clone Wars because they were controlling both sides of the war. Sure, somebody like Mina Bonteri is a threat to Palpatine in the same way that, like, Bail Organa would be, or Mon Mothma. Maybe not Padme, but I think Padme was actually his biggest threat, not even Dooku or Yoda or even Anakin, I don't think was as big of a threat to Palpatine as Padme was. But now I want to shift the question to you guys. Do you wish we saw more of the Separatists in the prequels? Personally, I think it's another interesting storyline that we could have gotten that was cut because The Phantom Menace just hurts the prequels so much, and I could go on a whole video about that, so I'm going to save that for another day. If this video hits 15 likes, I'll move that up in the rotation. If you want to see why Padme was Palpatine's biggest threat, you can click on the video right here. And if you want to see more stuff like this, you can hit this here to see my channel. Subscribe if you want more like this. But if you enjoyed the video today, please drop a like, and I'll see you next time on STV.